Okay, it's 3 o'clock now, so I think we'll get started. Firstly, for anyone who's wondering why my voice has changed, Ian Miller is not here at the minute, so I'm his colleague Ewan. We're joined here today with Susan Germer from Educanon, and she's come here today to show us how her software works. First of all, though, I'm going to just describe to you how we found this. So Ian found this about 2 years ago when it was still in beta, and I thought he looked like a good product. So we had a look at some other products that were similar to this, and none of them really came up to scratch compared to Educanon. What really attracted us to this was the way that you could sign up groups of students easily. As you can imagine, getting students to sign into a third-party piece of software is a bit of a nightmare. So we looked at this a bit more and decided to use it. We had a query from one of our academics who was trying to find a way to ensure that students had watched a video that he was giving out to them. So we decided to let him use Educanon. The first time we set it up for him, just to make sure it was all going properly, and everything went well. So Alan Roseman was using this to make sure students watched the video. They watched it, they answered questions during the video. The answers to their questions were recorded, and the students got grades associated with that as well. It was all fed back into Blackboard. So since then, we've used it a few times, well, a fair few times. As you can imagine, there's quite a lot of application for a product like this, where you get a video and then the questions are overlaid, and then your kind of feedback is recorded. So health and safety have used it a couple of times as well. We've used it in a number of courses successfully since then. The product is growing and growing, and many feature requests that we have made that they've actually implemented, because well, they were a small company and we got in there at the start, so they've listened to us, which is excellent. So with the videos, you can measure how long it takes the students to watch them, their responses, all this kind of useful stuff. The Blackboard Lti Plugin is something we're currently testing on our Blackboard dev server, and it's going pretty well so far. So I just saw Kathy's messages there. Yeah, I assume everyone can see and hear okay. You can use the group chat if you want to ask any questions, and then we'll probably get to the questions later on. So the Blackboard Lti is in place on our dev server, and it works pretty well so far. So if you're a member of staff and you go in through Blackboard and you add an Educanon tool, Educanon recognizes that you are a member of staff and gives you the editing and publishing privileges. If you're a student and you go in through the same link, you get given student access. So that works pretty well. The part of the LTI that isn't there yet, but they assure us is coming pretty soon, is where it feeds grades back to the grade center. As you can all imagine, that would be pretty useful. So we're looking forward to that one. Okay. Don't think I've got much left to say at this point, so I'm going to pass you on to Susan, and she's going to show you some stuff.
Hi. Thanks everyone for inviting me. I guess it's really early for me right now, so hopefully my voice isn't like cracking or something like that. And that was a nice intro, Ewan. Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully everyone can see it. Should be able to see it, correct?
We can see your screen now.
Okay, fabulous. All right, so actually over the last couple weeks, we've introduced a bunch of new features based primarily on the requests of our teachers or instructors or professors. So my GIFs that I'm going to show you are a little outdated, and so I'll show you it in real time too. We'll go into the actual app so that you get to see like the new things too that are, in my mind, are extremely exciting. So Ben and I created this in our classroom with our students. We were both teachers, 8th grade math and 8th grade science, and we were struggling to differentiate, but we were also struggling to have that kind of accountability piece that Ewan was talking about when the students were watching a video to make sure that they were actually engaging with it and learning from it, rather than just like kind of taking it and hoping that, it's like throwing spaghetti on the wall, like hoping that something sticks for them. So Ben created this, the very, very beta form, and this is kind of the build environment. We've integrated with a lot of different content providers. I realize you guys probably don't rely on any of these or many of these, but it's TeacherTube, SchoolTube, Schmoop, Show Me, YouTube, Vimeo, and actually even if you save it to your Google Drive and make the link public, you can actually copy the URL, paste it into our environment, and click the stream button. You can tag it with a variety of different things. And I know Common Core standards aren't things that you guys are necessarily interested in, but we can also integrate with Ensemble, which is a private kind of hosted server. And if you guys are storing your own videos and your own curriculum on a certain map, we can work with you guys to allow that integration so that your instructors can just copy the URL and paste it into the environment without having to download it somewhere else or upload it somewhere else. We're all about how can we make your lives easier and make this easier for you and more useful for you to use. You can notice also that you, right when you paste this into the environment, we do give you the capability of cropping the video edges off. And you can also, once you click Add Question, the build environment is meant to closely resemble like a Word document. We wanted this to be like as natural of an extension of what you're already doing, what worksheets you already have, what assignments you're already giving out as possible. There's 7 different question types that you can add, and actually it's kind of a misnomer, I guess, to call 2 of them question types, because there's an internal crop capability so that you don't actually have to download this again and then crop it using like, Screencast or Camtasia or something like that. You can actually skip to moment within this environment. You can add different kinds of functionalities, multiple choice, graded fill in the blank. It depends on really how you want to use this. If you want to use it more as just a kind of a check-in or a check for understanding, then multiple choice, graded fill in the blank are probably your best bets. If you want to do it, if you want to use this so that it's actually like kind of more of an extension of a conversation between you and one of your students, you can actually use our free response option. And the free response option allows them to have the same sort of capabilities that you have when you're creating the question. What that means is that you can actually, the students can embed audio files, they can insert hyperlinks to other videos they've created, they can insert images, or so they could take like a screenshot and then insert that image into their free response answer, or a photo or something like that when they're responding to your free response question. This is the view environment. So as the student is, well, this is the monitor environment, but as the student's watching the video will pause and the question will come up. The student has to interact with that question before they can progress on. They can rewind and revisit questions that they've gotten wrong. They can't alter original responses, but a student text box pops up. They can type in, what their misunderstanding was, take, accountability or kind of, the responsibility for that, and tell you why the correct answer is correct. We have some instructors that like to use this, and as opposed to doing like revisions or something for an increased score, what they'll do is they'll just have the students go back through and demonstrate mastery, submit that to them, and then it takes a fraction of a second to click on the question, and then you can assign partial or full credit. And this is the monitor tab. As the students are progressing through, it'll come to life with different colors. And then the grades get calculated at the end. And it is something that we're investigating. There are a couple different LMSs where we can actually already use or integrate with a gradebook, but we're looking at that functionality for you guys too. Right now, it's primarily Schoology and PowerSchool, which are 2 different LMS kind of providers. Largely in the States, but Blackboard's something we're looking at. We just dropped our iOS, so the app is actually live and functioning very well. It's great for iPods iPhones, and we always were capable. You were always capable of using iPads via a web browser, but what this does is it actually allows students to kind of cache the lesson. Then they can work on it offline, just in case there's any sort of issue with that. I know if you're trying to flip a class, or if students, maybe they're working on it on a train or something like that, and getting cut off from Wi-Fi is something that's a concern. They can actually just work on this, and then once they get back into Wi-Fi zone, it'll zap the information back to you, which is nice. It's also a great thing if in the classroom there's kind of an override or an overhaul on if you're using this in the classroom, there's it's like an overburdening of the bandwidth, which sometimes happens. I'm not sure if that is a concern for you guys, but this will allow for the students to just access that Wi-Fi, at two different points in time, rather than continuously. It makes their lives easier, and it kind of makes yours too. This is our team. I actually need to update this. We won a ton of different awards, and most recently, we are now on the Pacific Coast side because we got into StartX, which is Stanford's accelerator program, and we won AT&T's Aspire Innovation Award, which also gave us workspace in Redwood City. So right now, I'm talking to you from California, which is awesome. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to just very quickly go through kind of just like the basics of Educanon, of logging in, and you guys can use, you will be able to, if not already, use Blackboard to log in so that you don't actually have to go through our site. But let's say you're going through our site, which is fine. You'll notice we also integrated with Clever semi-recently, and that was a request from a bunch of our different school districts we're with, another LMS. So you just log in. Across the top, you'll notice that we call lessons bulbs, like think light bulbs. You have a bunch of different options across the top. You have your student search code too, which shouldn't be a very big of a concern for you guys when you're creating this, because Blackboard should be integrated. So you click design, and when you click design, it prompts you to, again, just paste a URL from whatever video you've either created or found. Click stream. If anyone else in our system, and we have over 85,000 teachers now and instructors using our platform across the globe. If anyone else has used that, their lessons will populate down here, and everything's modular. So you can actually go into their lessons and just modify them, or just see kind of what kinds of questions are that they're asking. So I'm just going to show you kind of what the lessons are or what they look like. So if you go into your bulbs, you have now two different, this is very exciting to me because I've been pushing for it for a little while. You can actually save your lessons into a unit now, or into like a unit folder, which is pretty awesome. Like I just created this, you can add another unit. And then you just drag this over and save it into it. And then once you've clicked into that unit, you can have whatever lessons you've created. So this is a really nice way of being able to like kind of divide up things for different cohorts of students or different classes. And then within that, different units, just a different way of organizing it. As it stands right now, we do have these filters also. So, and you can kind of filter down in your organizational style, whatever your preference is. If you click into any of these lessons, you'll notice that there's a variety of different questions. Each of these little bands right here actually ties to one of the questions. So at second 5, here's this question that appears over here. You can click into it. You can add some hardwired sort of feedback for your students. You can add images. You can insert audio files. You can really customize this and make it multidimensional so that when your student is interacting with it, they get the full benefits of the fact that we are now in an era of being online. So having that as options is great. If this is someone else's lesson, I did not teach American Sign Language, but that's fine. That just means that I can just modify it. You can take away different answers. You can add different answers. If you want to turn this into a different type of question, you can actually just delete it and create another question. When you click add question, well, I'm going to skip to this moment. So I'm at this different second. Just click add question. You'll be prompted to add or to choose from among 7 different kinds of things to add into here. Again, there are 2 different options that aren't necessarily questions. The skip to moment actually allows you to internally crop it, like I had mentioned before. So that if there's a portion of a video that either you're stammering and you made a mistake, but you didn't have a chance to edit it yourself outside of the video, you can use this as that internal cropping thing. You can add a website. And when I say add website, that's actually not as inclusive as it could be. So what I would do is I'd film myself my direct instruction, and then at a certain moment in time when I was talking about like parabolic functions or manipulating coefficients or something like that in class, I would actually find an interactive math like Weebly or something that would, or Applet that would allow for my students, once I embedded it into this, to play around with whatever I was talking about. So but what happens is it pauses, and then at that moment of the time, whatever interaction you've embedded, if it's a website or a game or whatever, will come up, but it's still within the Educanon environment. It does not take them off the site. And then whatever hyperlinks and anything that they click on within that website still does not open up new windows. It's what I call controlled freedom. So it allows them to experience, again, the full dynamics of the internet and this like 21st century environment without actually being distracting for them. So that can be pretty powerful. There are a variety of different things that you can do with this. Once you're done, you can actually, and I'm not sure if you guys are that excited about this, but if you just click print worksheet, most people's jaws drop when that happens, because they're like, oh my gosh, you mean I don't have to create like a separate thing? Which again, we realize that most instructors, most professors, most anyone already has something that looks sort of like this that they've created, and we want everyone to understand that this is just kind of your evolution of your teaching. So you're converting all of these things to this different format, but there's no reason for you to have to like create a separate worksheet to go along with that. And usually people will pass that out as like a review thing so that students can take active notes, and then save that to like a virtual trapper keeper or something like that for themselves. Another couple things to notice is we do have a database of over 175,000 modular lessons. You can search through by keyword, teacher's name, bulb, keyword, whatever you want. So, and once you find the lesson that you like, you can actually reshuffle that. So Mrs. Gian has been very prolific lately. So let's see what other lessons she's created. So you can actually just click into that. And again, we're in several different countries. So you can really use this honestly as like a kind of an immersion. English or the language arts classes really love it because you can actually access other people's classrooms across the globe, so that when you're creating lessons for your students, you don't have to kind of reinvent the wheel. You can click into it, you can watch it, and then if you like it, you can just copy the lesson to your bulbs. And then once you go back into your bulbs, they're at the top, which is pretty cool. You can then again go in, you can change everything about it. I wouldn't even know where to begin. It's going to prompt you to select like a grade. Right now, you guys are other. Sorry, I know there are a lot of people that have issues with that, and eventually we will add a functionality where it says something like higher ed or something like that. But you guys kind of grouped into a bucket together. Toggle the view. We've added this lesson analytics thing that has like Bloom's verbs, and it gives you like some snapshots of information. If there's ever a time period where you're looking at this and you're like, oh, I wish it reflected blah, blah, blah. I wish it had, a histogram for the amount of time that my students are working through their lesson. Just ping us, send me an email and we'll get on it. The monitor tab is another really important aspect of this that I don't spend enough time on when I'm talking about it or giving a demo. So you click monitor, here are all your different classes that you've set up. Click into your class. And again, we give it another kind of snapshot of information. If you guys are interested in seeing something else, please let me know. This is just the most commonly requested info from our teachers. So you go down once you're, kind of sifting down. These are all the lessons that I've created within that classroom, and you can see like little snapshots of information to kind of make it more useful for you. So if you click into one of your lessons, you'll have far more students than just Lonely Joe here, but the students will be on the left-hand side. This is meant to really closely resemble kind of an Excel spreadsheet, which is our preferred format for putting in student information, student data, or on their answer choices, so that we can make kind of more in-time decisions. You can treat it like that, so you can actually like reshuffle this. If you're strategic about the misconceptions that you're trying to gauge with certain answer choices, it will give you a lot more information than just whether or not your class is getting a question wrong. You can figure out very quickly how they're getting it wrong. And if you want to go and remediate with an individual student versus the entire class, it allows you to kind of be equipped with a ton more information than just before when you just grade it or just get a kind of a snapshot from people. At the end of the lesson, you'll notice this little emoticon. So once the student completes the lesson, they're prompted to give you a rating, to give the lesson a rating and provide a comment, and they can assign an emoticon for you. I had a lot of teachers that didn't want this in the beginning, but this was a strategic kind of psychological manipulation on our part. So what we found really quickly was that if a student knows that they can give a rating to their professor on their lesson, a few things happen. One, they'll pay far more attention throughout the lesson, regardless of how boring it is or how ineffective it is overall. So they will actually learn more, even if it's kind of, not a very great lesson. And then at the end of the lesson, giving you a rating, it kind of promotes that sort of mutual respect. What it says to the student is that you care about their voice and about their thoughts. And then in exchange, they start caring more about yours. And then the last thing is that this is really allows for students to articulate things that articulate themselves, but then also to like tell you what was working and what's not working, so that you as a professor, as a teacher, instructor, can be sure to capitalize on the things that you're doing really well, but then maybe minimize the things that aren't working very well. So that's a very basic kind of overview. One last thing that I want to mention, and then I'm going to open it to some questions. Hopefully you guys have some questions. Is that another powerful thing that you can do is assign to your students to make lessons. And this looks very different depending on the subject matter or the assignment. I've been working a lot with some nursing groups, higher ed nursing groups, that actually would just assign to their students to film themselves during hypothetical situations and actually just submit that video via this mechanism. So they didn't even add reflective pauses or anything like that. They just submitted it to them via this. And then the teacher, the instructor, the professor, or whatever, went through and added like these free response questions at specific moments in time throughout the video. They were like, when you did XYZ thing, discuss 4 other ways that you could have done that better, and then assign that back out to that student. And so what ended up happening is like this, it's like an annotation back and forth. The way that I used to do it is I'd actually project onto the board some of my lessons. We'd talk through the pedagogy involved with the different decisions I made as to whether or not to have a free response question or a multiple choice question. And then I would assign my students a really difficult question, give them a few different resources. They could either choose to stream one of those resources and then populate it with questions that ended or resulted in mastery of that subject or of that question, or they could film themselves working through that question, but then they had to populate it with questions in addition to that, like another layer of things, so that they were teaching how to, not only showing how to solve the question, but teaching other students how to solve it, which is another like very powerful thing. They always say that the way to become a master of something is to teach it yourself. So this was strategic also to make sure that our students all mastered everything. not just the things that we thought were most important. So with that, I'd love to just kind of open it up, see if there are any questions that you guys have. I don't want to overwhelm you with things. There are a bunch of different use cases that you can employ, and I'd be happy to, if you're interested in that, I'd be happy to just, find a time where you and I can screen share and talk through those use cases. Usually it's a little bit more daunting if there's 20 of us sitting around. So are there any questions? I'm gonna see if I can click on this.
There's a couple of questions that came in via text earlier, Sue.
Yeah.
There was a couple related to compatibility. Somebody asked, do you have a Android version of your app potentially on the works?
Yes, it is. It is in the works. So there's a variety of things that we are kind of working on. As it stands, though, the smartphones really work well with this. The primary reason we got the iOS was that that's required for iPhones. They're like they won't let you stream they won't let us use like a web browser on an iPhone. And we have a lot of people who actually, and a lot of students who actually have iPhones without having like computers or anything like that. So, but yes, the smartphone, like an Android app, is in the works.
Okay, great. The other question I had on compatibility was about LMSs and other LMSs, specifically Moodle. Have you? Is that one being compatible?
Yeah. So we integrate with. Okay, I'm going to go through the list. We integrate with Moodle, Clever, Blackboard, Schoology, Edmodo. Pretty much if it has an LTI, we can integrate with it. Most recently, we integrate with Canvas, which is a great LMS. And then pretty much if you have heard of it, and if we've heard of it, we'll integrate with it. We just added Haiku also, which is kind of a smaller LMS. But yes, we do Moodle also.
Excellent.
I'd be happy to go offline and chat with whomever had that question.
Okay. So I don't see any more questions just yet, unless anybody has anything more to ask us.
Yeah, I'm not getting.
Well, thanks for your presentation. That was wonderful. There was a couple of people who had audio and visual issues, but we are recording this, so we will be able to get it out to you afterwards. That's not a problem. Don't worry about that.
Okay, great.
So yeah, there was a few things in there that I'd seen for the first time as well that are pretty exciting.
Well, actually, let me show you one more thing.
Yes.
Because sorry, it's just like this is kind of like my love child, I guess. So when we integrate new things, we also just rolled out. So you should be able to see my screen again. We just rolled out the capability of when you have a multiple choice question. So let's just click into this. When you have a multiple choice question, what you can also do is when you're adding, see if you click onto this, you'll get prompted. You can actually add into the question the answers itself, audio files, images, equations, and you can reformat it. It's just really cool. So that now it can be a little bit more, I don't know, sophisticated looking, but then also you can be sure to reach a variety of different people that might have different learning needs. Also, we have a lot of language arts people that are trying to test for pronunciation, and in addition to like spelling something. So they can record different kinds of pronunciation of something and test the people's abilities to do that. So that's another functionality that we added in based on requests from people. So again, if you guys have any suggestions, or if there's anything that you really want to see that you think would make this an even more powerful product, please don't hesitate. Send me an email. I'm Sue at Educanon. And I regularly check it, although probably not at 3 a.m, which is probably your normal work day. To see, give me like 12 hours or something. I will be sure to respond.
Yeah, thank you for getting up so early for us. We really appreciate it.
No problem. It's actually quite beautiful right now in California. So
Excellent.
I don't mind. I'm gonna go for a jog after this. So.
One more quick one just before you go.
Yeah, sure.
Matt has asked, could you quickly go over the differences between the free version and the integrated paid for one?
Okay, well, free version, you only have access to multiple choice and reflective pauses. You don't have access to our database. You can't assign things to students. You can't download grades. There's no integration with LMSs. You can't add, free response questions or embed websites or do internal cropping. Essentially, you're pretty limited. You just have access to the multiple choice and reflective pause. So hopefully that answers. it's a pretty big difference.
Understandable. Okay, another question just coming up. Right, 1 second. Yeah, Matt says thank you for your response there. Very good. Kathy is now asking, what evidence do you have that Educanon is working as a learning tool? Do you have any research that could be shared?
So we are working on refining our data collection and analysis. We launched a little over a year ago, and so it's always a priority. I mean, engaging our students and making sure that they master things and have amazing results are things that we've collected, like pieces of data from a variety of different teachers, a variety of different schools, but we don't have all of the analytics together. That's our a huge priority for us over the next few months. And so once we get that, or if you're collecting it yourself, we'd be happy to, kind of chat with you offline about that process, or if you have any ideas as to like the types of information that you really want to see, or I'm sure that you've probably already done sort of research and analysis like this too. Hopefully that answers your question. Anyway, it's a priority. It's something that I talk to teachers all the time, and they tell me about like how formal like grades have gone up, how mastery has like ignited, but we haven't actually like collected and analyzed the data enough so that we can like produce a kind of like a white paper or something like that, so that everyone can see it. But it's gonna happen.
Great. I look forward to reading that when that comes out.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we all echo that sentiment. Thanks for the question, Kathy. That was a good one. Okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, I think we're about done. Okay. Looking pretty quiet on the text messages there. Okay. Thank you, Sue. Do you have anything further to say, or should we leave it there?
Yeah, I think this has been great. If you have, again, any other questions, anything else comes up, if you're using this even and you want some extra help, feel free to send me an email. Again, it's Sue, SUE at Educanon, no consecutive n.com.
Okay, great. I'll make sure that your contact details go out when we get the recordings together as well.
Awesome. Great.
Great. Well, thanks again, Sue.
Yeah, thanks for having me. All right.
No problem. We'll see you again soon.
Okay.